My father is extremely controlling. That's why his sons went no contact with him.
Oh, it's like, you got to disconnect that controller. That controller's not working anymore because it's been
working.
cut off.
Background. My dad has always had control and anger issues. He worked hard to give my mom, brother, and I what we needed, but he was not really emotionally there. By the way, this comes from Ramen Noodle 620, and if you want to submit your stories, go to the OK Storytime subreddit. Growing up with him was tough. If I vacuumed and did not do it exactly how he would do it, he would make comments. If you did something wrong once, he would immediately say you could never do anything right. Could not fathom that people make mistakes and mistakes happen, especially since he made plenty of them. Just never admitted to it. He had friends and relatives live with us without ever asking my mom, brother, or if we were okay with it. Not asking my mom, who's the person that ends up taking up the additional work, was the most annoying thing for me. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. I was okay sharing a room with my brother, not quite okay sharing it with an uncle for years, another relative, and once even some random guy who was a friend of a friend.
That sounds like an invasion of your privacy. No, you didn't get to agree to these contracts.
He sacrificed the comfort of me, my mom, and my brother to make himself look good by offering space to these people for long periods of time. Think years, not days. Plenty more examples of his selfish and controlling behavior, not to mention him having a short fuse. Despite all of this, he did work hard, had his moments, and I will always appreciate the things he did do. We had everything we needed. First son goes no contact. A couple of summers ago, my dad and I got into an argument. Argument was over me and my wife's dog. My dad is a very religious Muslim and has gotten more religious as he ages. For example, he took down all of the pictures they had of people, as you're not supposed to have that in Islam. He still listens to music though, so I don't want to get started on the hypocrisy displayed on a regular basis by him and the Muslim community I grew up in general. Islam is not a fan of dogs being in a home. My wife and I do not live with my parents. We have our own home, and I told my parents my wife and I would be keeping the dog she had before we got into a relationship. I love this dog. I thought I got it through to my dad that the dog was here to stay. I even got an imam to talk to him about it. He brought it up again one day while he was over at our house and asked when we were getting rid of the dog. I tell him we aren't, and he needs to stop talking about it. This started a big argument between me and him. He went home, and I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. When he got home, my brother was there. He told my brother the story, and my brother told him he was wrong to make demands of my wife and I. My dad got into an argument with my brother, and it got close to being physical, so my brother left. My brother at the time had his phone service under my parents' family plan.
Really quick, though, also always a great move to just leave.
My dad canceled his number, so I had to call the phone company. I have access since I'm the one who usually manages issues for him. My dad would then cancel the service again, being really petty. I eventually just added my brother to my phone plan. After this incident, my brother went no contact with both of our parents. This was the last straw for him. He went no contact with our mom because she is an enabler. That requires a different post. To this day, my dad still does not understand why my brother is no longer in contact with him. I understood my brother's decision and have not tried to change his mind. I stayed in contact with my dad, but low contact. There's more to the story, but it is always just confusing to me when parents are like, I don't understand why my children don't talk to me. How are you not aware of the actions that you take?
They're like Dracula, because when you hold up a mirror to them, they can't see anything. They say, I see nothing there to look at. Myself? Oh, I have to examine myself? No. That's off the agenda for today.
Second son goes no contact. Now to a couple of weeks ago, my dad and I once again got into an argument. My wife and I have a newborn. I was so excited for my parents to have their first grandchild. As much of an a-hole that my dad is and has been, I have seen how well he interacts with my little cousins, and I incorrectly thought being a grandparent may mellow him down. I figured there would be some disagreements, as a lot of grandparents think since they raise kids, they know exactly what to do, even if they raised those kids 25 plus years ago.
Has that ever been the case if it's like, oh, I thought just like becoming a grandparent would calm someone down or like completely
No, I
change
thought
their
you meant-
personality
yeah.
or like, oh, maybe being a parent will completely repair us as individuals. It's like,
Yeah.
that literally never
That
happens.
doesn't work. Yeah,
There's just a kid involved
yeah.
now.
Unfortunately, his controlling ways and anger issues reared their ugly head in a bad way. We were over at my parents' so they could see my newborn son, and because 2 of my cousins were visiting to see my newborn son as well. Things went fine until my wife and I were getting ready to leave. My son was being a bit fussy as we were putting him into the car seat. That happens. Babies get fussy and cry a bit. Once we get the car seat in the car and get going, he normally calms down. If he didn't, we would just give him a bottle as he was probably hungry. We had already changed and burped him at this point. My dad starts saying we should just give him gripe water. I tell my dad that the baby is fine, just being a bit fussy. My dad insists again, so I tell him I'm not giving him gripe water. We asked our pediatrician about it, and our pediatrician said to hold off on gripe water since our baby was still pretty small. Our son was born almost 3 weeks early and is very small, so we're being cautious. We also don't want to give him anything besides breast milk and formula if it's not really necessary, which it was not in this case. This set my dad off. He goes off about what the F does doctors know. He raised 2 kids. He gave my brother gripe water when he was 2 days old. That is obviously BS because he didn't even know about gripe water until he visited one of his friends and they told him about it. Not only that, but my brother was born late and at a normal weight. His situation is not the same as my son's. My dad then does his usual thing of taking one issue, escalating it, and going off about everything. He goes on to say, don't come around anymore, even with the baby. Called me my wife a kafir and my son. This is an Islamic insult. My mom is trying to calm him down because he is yelling all of these things 2 feet next to me and the car seat my son is in. My teenage cousins are also hearing all of this. At this point, my wife has taken our son out of the apartment and into the hall, which seems like you just have to leave this situation, especially with a baby. I am trying to leave as well, but my dad continues to yell. He has now moved on to how we have not given him a cent, how he got us educated and put us through college for us to never give him anything back, how we basically don't do crap for him, and some other things I don't recall exactly. Just a load of horse crap. I have paid for my parents' cable internet bill for the past 12 plus years, even though I have not lived with them for years. I have just recently paid for their tickets, which was about $2,800 to go to our home country, and have paid for other random things like ordering them pizza when my cousins are over at their house and my mom does not feel like cooking. He says he got us educated, but he did crap. Like telling us he'd pay for college and then telling us after a semester that he wouldn't. Yeah, he's like, I helped you get educated. And he's like, you didn't even monetarily help us.
He's like, yeah, remember when I lied to you about paying for your college and got you to go?
Yeah.
Would you have gone if you knew that you would have had to pay for the whole thing yourself?
Exactly.
Think about it, huh? Think about
use
it.
Your mind. Basically leaving us in the middle of a semester scrambling. He told my brother he would only pay if he agreed to marry a woman from our country. Oh, understand if he doesn't want to pay, but tell us that before we decide on a school so we can make an informed decision. Exactly. Don't just lie to your children.
Hey, let's make informed decisions.
He still brags to his friends that he put us through school, though. He says we never do crap for him, even though both of my parents come to me for legal, tax, finance, tech, and basically any issue. Keeping a tally of what you've done for your kids and throwing it in their face is BS. Your kids did not ask to be born.
Your kids are your product.
Yeah.
You must take care of your product.
That's what you got to do. Especially when you've basically done a little above the bare minimum. And you know what is above the bare minimum?
Tell me.
Listening to full episodes with stories like this. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app and search up OK Storytime.
That's right. That's just barely the bare minimum.
Barely
if you want to
above
go above bare minimum, you want to get like 3 or 4 devices, right? You open them all at the same time. You have one open on the stream.
Yeah.
You have 3 open on
different episodes.
Different podcast episodes. A mysterious 5th device enters the fray, and you're watching our other YouTube channels, which are our clips channel and our compilation channel.
And then you would be going above the bare minimum.
Now you're like way above and beyond. Yeah. You're in outer space now.
But there is a little bit left. Do you have any final thoughts on this story?
I think it's really hard when, like, you know, clearly there's a lot of like tradition and like religious values and like things that have probably like been passed through the family for a long time. And it's like really hard to deal with like a family member who like is like, you should do it this way, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna, and then it's like, well, if you don't do that, then it's like I hate you. It's like there's not really much wiggle room you can go from there. You either can like cave, or you just have to accept that that person's gonna feel the way they feel about it, and then you can move forward with it. But it's really hard when people are basically just like, it's my way or you're wrong.
But there is a little bit more to the story. After taking his yelling right in my face, I left and have not spoken to him since. I told my mom we are not speaking to him and he is not seeing us anymore. If he gets some therapy and anger management, maybe we can see what happens. He has to make a change though. Of course, the last time I spoke to my mom, she told me he'd been crying. As usual, he's the victim. Here's to hoping I don't continue this cycle. Yeah, you can only hope to be better than your parents.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can just focus on being a better version of you than you were yesterday.
But that is the end of that story.